Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we've got a lot to cover in our championship review today on last weekend's games. We've had shock results, we've had more twists in the promotion, the relegation and the playoff race that we both need to discuss today. In the second half of the video, I'll predict the midweek games on the Premier League, the Championship and the League One playoff final. So we've got a lot to cover for today's video. If you've got a correct score prediction, your comment will be on the screen right now. And well done, there's quite a lot of you that have got a correct score prediction. I actually had a hard time finding all of them, but the one getting the shout out is Nibator29, I think I said your name right, for getting the most correct score predictions. Your channel will be on the eye icon up there. And this is what the Lexus Hall of Fame now looks like. It's ever changing every single week. I'm really excited to see how it's going to end at the end of the season. From a poor midweek in predictions, I actually had a really good weekend for predictions. I got 3 correct scores, which was the Preston and Nottingham Forest game. I also got the Hull and Millwall game right, and I also got the Stoke and Birmingham game right. So pretty good weekend for me, whilst FIFA 20 got a big fat 0, so that's a huge dub for me. If you guys like what you see and want to see more content, please make sure you do give this video a like. It really massively helps and it's massively appreciated. You guys smashed it on Friday, so let's keep this up. And if you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps. I gained 5 subscribers from my last video. I know that doesn't sound many, but it's a huge dub for me. So if you can subscribe at the same rate as that last video, that would really make my day, really would. Without any further ado, let's hop in and talk about these games. So the first game, we saw Luton pick up a valuable 3 points as they claimed an away victory against relegation rivals Huddersfield Town by 2-0. The first half of the game was boring, to say the least. We had no opportunities on goal. Fraser Campbell didn't actually have a touch of the ball in Luton's box, and Luton didn't have an attempt on goal. The only shot on goal was from Lewis O'Brien, who shot from distance, but Sluga made a comfortable save. But in the second half, Luton had a really bright start. They won a corner, and they went ahead from that corner. James Bree managed to cross the corner, and Solly Bradley managed to win a powerful header to get the ball into the net and made it 1-0. It was poor marking by Christopher Schindler, who's got the wrong side of Solly Bradley, but Solly Bradley won't care. He got his side ahead. Huddersfield did probe forward, and Smith Rowe did have a chance, but he scuffed his shot slightly wide of the post. But Luton, following a really poor mistake by, I think it was Willock for Huddersfield, gave the ball away, and James Connors was put 1-on-1. He missed his 1-on-1 opportunity hitting the post, but Elliot Lee from just outside the penalty spot scores an absolute screamer of a rebound past Jonas Lossell, and that made it 2-0 to Luton Town. Huddersfield have now not scored a goal in over 4.5 hours, so their form right now is really concerning to me. As with Luton, I say they've got a fighting chance to get out of the predicament they find themselves in. They are 1 point of safety if you apply Wigan's 12-point deduction to the table. If they survive following the situation they found themselves in, it would be a minor miracle. We saw Fulham guarantee their place into the playoff with a 2-0 home victory over Cardiff City. I have to give Fulham some credit. Following their 3-0 defeat against Leeds, where they looked all over the place, they really stepped up. And when they had a 3-game man with Mitrovic not being on the squad, they actually won 3 games out of 3. So it goes to show that they've got some quality players in or around the squad that can step up. Mitrovic returned to the game, and what did he do a couple of minutes in? He scored. A penalty was won by a lapse of concentration by Sanderson. Was it a penalty? I think 50-50. Yeah, maybe a penalty, although it did look quite soft. Mitrovic stepped up. He scored his 24th goal of the season, the joint top goal scorer for the Golden Boot right now. So that race is just as exciting as the Championship as well. Cardiff almost equalised immediately as Joe Walls managed to hit the bar. But Fulham also had a very strong opportunity from Boba Dakaveda-Reid, where he had a shot, and Smithies made an outstanding fingertip save where he managed to tip the shot onto the bar. It was an unbelievable save. Smithies kept Cardiff in the game before half-time. However, Cardiff couldn't build from that, and Fulham got their second. Josh Onoma managed to score it. It's a brilliant play between Onoma and Johansson, where Onoma does a back heel to Johansson. He squares it back to Onoma, shoots it past Smithies. That made it 2-0 to Fulham. Josh Onoma's second goal in 3 games, which is some terrific form for the guy. Cardiff were poor for a lot of the game. The only saving grace for them is that they're still in the playoffs, following teams around them have also dropped points this weekend. The next game versus Derby is huge for the playoff race. If Cardiff beat Derby, I think they've pretty much got the playoffs secured for me. Now we go to Saturday's games. We first start with Reading managing to beat Charlton away from home by 1-0, and the game was decided only 3 minutes in. Andy Rinomhota got fouled by Oshijala in the box. For me, it was a penalty. It was a very lazy challenge. George Puskas went straight down the middle, and that made it 1-0. Reading didn't really probe for a second. They were just happy to sit back a little bit, deal with Charlton's pressures. Charlton did fight for a goal. Aneke did get a goal disallowed for offside. He's a bit unlucky. Just Kaski did get fouled in the box. did look a little bit rough and a bit similar to Oshijala's challenge. Apparently, according to Darren Bond, it's not a penalty and he waved it away. Charlton have Leeds in the final day, but they have Birmingham and Wigan coming up. For me, I think Charlton definitely need, at least 1 point, maybe two draws actually for Charlton could actually guarantee their survival for me following the teams around them. As with Reading, they're 13th place right now. They're 4 points behind Blackburn. I really don't think they're going to make it into the playoffs, but let's see if they can push on for a top half finish. Then we saw Brentford continue their search for promotion with a 3-1 away victory against Derby. Brentford took a very early lead where Brian Mbeumo managed to take a shot which came off the post and Ollie Watkins managed to score the rebound. His 24th goal this season as well. So it's pretty much neck and neck between Mitrovic and Watkins to see who's going to get the golden boot. Derby grew into the game when they conceded and they wanted to get something and they got rewarded for it. Some terrific play by Derby actually. Rooney charged forward, Bird managed to spread the attack, Jaden Bogle managed to loop a low ball into the box. Sibley managed to get a little bit of a touch. He got it to Jason Knight who smashed it under Rare. That made it 1-1 and we could have had a really interesting game on our hands. However, the game absolutely changed from a horrendous howler by Ben Hamer. Ben Rama, who was really threatening pretty much all game, took a pretty tame shot at Ben Hamer. He saves it, but I don't know why he kind of jumps and then the ball just squirms under him, just going over the line. It's a really poor mistake and I think it really cost Derby the game because, to be honest, I think Derby could have actually held on for something and got a result. Ben Rama just continuing why he's probably the best player in the Championship since the restart. Dribbles the ball very well, just outside the box. Looped a fantastic curling effort in the top right corner, a contender for goal of the weekend for sure. This is a really positive result for Brentford, especially as West Brom have dropped points this weekend. It's now a 3-point gap with West Brom and they've got a much better goal difference than West Brom as well. If West Brom don't beat Fulham and Brentford can beat Preston, they will be in second place, which is absolutely crazy. As with Derby, they're still only 3 points off the playoffs and they do have to play Cardiff next, who are currently in 6th place. If they could beat Cardiff, they can place them and go into the playoffs themselves. That is going to be a really exciting game. We now go to the free clubs. Disappointingly, we start with one which ended as a 0-0 draw, which was Barnsley and Wigan. It's a disappointing result for both of these sides who really needed a win to try and ensure their survival in the Championship. Barnsley I saw were the strongest side for about 70 minutes and then Wigan had a really good spell in the final 20 minutes of the game. Neither keeper was really tested and made any really key saves. The most entertaining part of the game was the tackles. Oh my word, Anthony Robinson's tackle on Kieran Ludwig. I mean, he did a full 360 flip and landed on his head. I'll admit it was quite entertaining to watch, but the more you look at it, the worse it feels. How that is not a red card compared to the stuff you see red cards getting in football nowadays is absolutely astonishing. However, having said that, Wigan did go down to 10 men. Daniel Foss got sent off by a high challenge on Elliot Simos. Not as bad as Anthony Robinson's challenge, let me tell you. This result definitely doesn't do either side any favours, especially Barnsley. Their final 3 games, they've got Nottingham Forest, Brentford and Leeds. I'm sorry to say, but I think Barnsley's chances of survival have evaporated. For me, if they needed to survive, they needed to pick up more points in their must-win games. So they needed to be outside the bottom 3 at the time when they played those 3 games. Unless they can get a miracle and beat one of those sides, then I think Barnsley are going to go and have an immediate return back to League One, sadly. As with Wigan, they're now on the foot of the table following that Luton have won this weekend. They're only 3 points from Hull, who occupy 21st technically, and they've got to play against Hull City next. Unbelievable. Just like Cardiff and Derby, Hull and Wigan is going to be such an important game. My pulse is just racing thinking about those 2 games and what they could mean for the season as well. This is so exciting, oh my gosh. Then we saw Blackburn put a dent into West Brom's chances of automatic promotion with a 1-1 draw, and I have to say it's deserved. A really entertaining game. In fact, I think I will pick it as my result for weekend. It was an unbelievable game. Both sides had a load of chances. West Brom were very comfortable in the first half, I'd say. Grzycki and Charlie Austin managed to force Walton into some pretty good saves, but West Brom took the lead just before half time. So great play down the right hand side from Pereira. He managed to get a shot which was blocked, but Krovinovic in the right place at the right time hits a terrific volley into the net and that made it 1-0 to West Brom. Krovinovic had an even easier chance in the second half. Pereira had a shot saved by Walter, but Krovinovic literally 3 yards out hit the ball and it hit the post. He should have been scoring that, and if he did, maybe West Brom could have been cruising. But following that miss, Blackburn had a new spring in their step. Blackburn always looked to threaten the counter, but they didn't really force any chances until Tony Mowbray introduced a quadruple substitution, which you don't see often in the new restart, but he did, and it really worked for Blackburn. Sam Gallagher drove forward down the right hand side, having a little bit of a scud pass, but it found Joe Wathwell in a load of space. He shot well past Sam Johnston, that made it 1-1. But both teams had so many good chances to win it. Especially Blackburn, Jacob Davenport was put one-on-one with Sam Johnston. But Sam Johnston made a terrific save, an unbelievable save. It's a fantastic game, and West Brom's next game is against Fulham. For me, if they could beat Fulham, I think West Brom will secure promotion for me. As with Blackburn, they have a small chance of getting into the playoffs now. They're 4 points off Cardiff, but who knows what could happen in the last 3 batches of Championship games. It's going to be absolutely gripping this. Then we had Millwall putting Hull in further trouble with a 1-0 away victory. Ryan Nenard scored a terrific goal 2 minutes in with an absolute stunner from the left hand side of the box, hitting the top right corner. Millwall for me didn't need to go to second gear when they had to play Hull. They were really poor. Although Hull did have chances for Manic Wilkes and George Honeyman, they really looked really poor in the midfield and there just wasn't any structure. Millwall could have scored a little bit more if they had quite a few good chances, but overall, it was a pretty flat game from 90 minutes in, apart from that one stunner from Leonard. Hull have only had 1 win since New Year's Day, which is absolutely shocking form. For their next games, they've got Wigan and Luton. They need to avoid defeat in both of those games if they want to guarantee survival. As with Millwall, following a slow start to the restart, they've actually now recovered, only 2 points up the playoffs. If they could beat Blackburn, I think they will be in a very strong position to try and get into the top 6 at the end of the season, with a lot of the top sides playing against each other. It's going to be really tight. Then we saw Bristol City continuing their winning one since Lee Johnson departed the club with a 3-1 away victory against Middlesbrough. It was a scintillating counter-attacking performance by Bristol City. That's literally what I can say. It was a counter-attacking performance. They took the lead out of Naki Wells. Ryman pulled the ball back, gave it to Naki Wells just outside the box. He shot and hit the crossbar into the net. It was unbelievable. Vamra Jeju, and yeah, that's how you say that name, Chris Kamara, he could have increased Bristol City's lead, but Jovanovic made a terrific save denying his chance. Middlesbrough did have chances of their own. Saville came the closest to going ahead. He had a powerful header which Bentley got a couple of fingertips to, and it crashed against the crossbar. It was an unbelievable chance for Middlesbrough, where I think they were quite unlucky not to get back into the game, but Bristol City put the game to their control when they went 2 goals up before half time. It was another counter attack. Jack Hunt started it, gave it to Andre Varman, who charged forward, gave it to Jamie Patterson, continuing his great form, great skill, into the box, hitting the top right corner for goal. Absolutely brilliant goal. The game was taken from Middlesbrough, where George Trent had a poor header which was won by Andre Varman, who charged forward, slip a through ball to Naki Wells, who managed to shoot it under Stojanovic, and that made it 3-0. Sombalonga managed to get a consolation for Middlesbrough, a really good strike from him, but that was the only positive I could see in Middlesbrough's performances. They were really vulnerable to the counter-attack, which is really concerning for me, and they wasted so many chances as well. Middlesbrough, for me, cannot afford to lose their last 3 games, otherwise it's going to be squeaky bum time. As with Bristol City, they've got a really small chance getting into the playoffs, but they've recovered a little bit and maybe they can go on a late surge. We'll have to wait and see what happens with them. Then we saw Preston and Nottingham Forest have a 1-1 draw, a result that pretty much doesn't do either side any favours either, but I think it was the fair result. Nottingham Forest did take the lead after winning a penalty from Ben Pearce and managed to foul Nuno da Costa. For me, a really soft penalty, really harsh on Preston. Lewis Grabban stood forward, shot it down the middle, and that made it 1-0 to Nottingham Forest, his 20th goal of the season. The first time a Nottingham Forest player scored 20 goals in a season for over 18 years, which is an unbelievable record. Preston responded very well though. They managed to equalise 10 minutes later. Ben Pearce looped a terrific pass to Brad Potts, who did a low pass, and Jadon Stockley in the right place at the right time managed to tap the ball into the net. That made it 1-1. But apart from those opening 15 minutes, the game was pretty much as flat as a pancake. There weren't many things going on in that game. Forest didn't have any clear-cut chances. Preston had a late rally at the final 10 minutes, but they didn't really test Samba all that much. But I do think 1-1 was the fair result. Preston, I think, will be more frustrated than Forest were, especially that they had their late rally. They were really trying to get the maximum of 3 points because they knew following that Cardiff didn't beat Fulham, they could have got into the playoffs themselves. So it will be a bit disappointing for Preston. For me, they need 9 points out of 9 in their last 3 games, in my opinion, although they do have Brentford to play next. But who knows what can happen. For me, I think Nottingham Forest have secured their place in the playoff, and this is for the first time in 10 years, which is absolutely amazing. Whatever happens in the end of the season, it's an unbelievable season with Nottingham Forest. Very saw an emphatic win from Sheffield Wednesday, who managed to beat Queen's Park Rangers by 3-0 away from home. The performance was set straight in 5 minutes in. Josh Windass had a free kick which was saved by Lumley. Luongo tried to score the rebound, but the hit came off the post. The ball just refused to go into the net, but eventually Dominic Iorfa scored the rebound that made it 1-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday got their second with Josh Windass just before half time. Alessio De Cruz looped in the corner. Windass won the header, that made it 2-0. Really poor defending on Queen's Park Rangers' part. Queen's Park Rangers only had one proper chance for me, Eze. Following a mistake from Tom Lees, Eze was put one-on-one with Wildsmith, but he made a really brave save. Sheffield Wednesday finished off the scoring with Jacob Murphy. No player closed him down. He managed to loop a curling effort from about 18 yards out. A terrific goal. That made it 3-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday now have 55 points, and with a potential points deduction looming, I think Sheffield Wednesday are safe from relegation now. As for Queen's Park Rangers, it's 6 defeats and 7 with Mark Warburton. I think he needs to be very careful. He needs to bring some sort of response to Queen's Park Rangers, so I think his job could be in jeopardy. Now, finally, we go to Sunday's game. So the penultimate game, we have to talk about the huge win. I say huge win by Leeds United with a 1-0 away victory against Swansea. And I remember the reverse fixture where Ayew managed to score for Swansea in or around the same time as well. And boy, have the tables have turned. Pablo Hernandez was the one getting the spoils for Leeds United in this game. Minus the Cardiff game, Leeds have actually looked really refreshed after the restart. And they look really, really energised. And I think this huge break has actually kind of done them a little bit of a favour following Marcelo Bielsa's style of play. It's very energetic and it can take a lot of energy out of players. They definitely had more chances and the better chances. Patrick Bamford had one chance from each half, but Freddie Woodman managed to save. Swansea did have a few chances, but their chances weren't necessarily on goal. But the magic happened in the 89th minute. I have to say, a very special shout out to Luke Hayling, who I thought was absolutely terrific in that game. Charged forward, managed to bring a low ball, got a deflection of a Swansea defender to Pablo Hernandez in the right place at the right time, scooped the ball well past the reach of Freddie Woodman. That made it 1-0 to Leeds, and the celebrations were justified. It was an unbelievable result by Leeds United, where I don't think many of them backed them for a win. What an important goal that could be for Pablo Hernandez and Leeds United. They're 6 points ahead of Brentford with 3 games left, 4 points away from guaranteeing automatic promotion. Absolutely incredible. And for me, I think Leeds United have done it. I think they're going back to the Premier League for the first time in 16 years. As with Swansea, they did miss the opportunity likewise with Preston to get into the playoff place in 6th place. They've got a tough game against Nottingham Forest. I think if they could beat Forest, I think Swansea will be strong favourites to be in that top 6 place. And finally, we saw Stoke really strengthen their hopes of survival with a 2-0 victory against Birmingham, which I correctly predicted somehow. Stoke immediately flew through the traps and could have scored really, really early on, where Vokes got a header which crashed against the crossbar. But Stoke's early pressure paid off. They got an early goal through Danny Batt, who managed to get enough of a touch from across, and it came off Lee Camp's leg into the net. That made it 1-0 to Stoke. James McLean had 2 quick opportunities afterwards, one of them where Lee Camp made a terrific save, and the other one where he shot from distance and it hit the crossbar. But Sam Klukas' goal was something special. Some great play between him and James McLean. Klukas ran forward, no Birmingham player pressuring him, scored in the top right corner. That made it 2-0 to Stoke. In the second half, it was the same story, except there weren't really any main chances. There were only half chances in that game, and no keeper really had to make any good saves. Birmingham had a lot of the ball, but Stoke's work rate was insane. They kept breaking up the play and charging forward. It really made Birmingham look really average. They're now under Steve Spooner, which is officially my favourite manager name now. Birmingham need to recover as soon as they can. Stoke have now overtaken Birmingham in the table, so arguably you could say Birmingham are now in the relegation fight with Stoke. So we're going to have to wait and see. If Birmingham go down, it'll be absolutely unbelievable following how good they looked just before lockdown. When you have a relegation battle with up to 8 teams getting dropped in this stage of the season, you know you're going to have an unbelievable end to the season. I'm so excited. So there you have it, guys. Here is the Championship table after Matchday 43. Leeds up top on 84 points, have already overtaken the number of points that they got last year. Brentford are 3 points off the top 2 places, so they're really close. Cardiff are still in the top 6, but Swansea, Preston, Millwall, Derby, Bristol City, even Blackburn are still in contention with that 6th place spot. As I mentioned, 17th place downwards are teams still in danger. With Wigan's 12-point deduction in place, Wigan are now in the foot of the table with 42 points. 3 points off now 21st place Hull City. It's only destiny that Wigan play Hull City next. Before we predict those games though, my player of the weekend I think has to go to Saïd Benrahma. His performances since the lockdown have been absolutely incredible. For me, my player of the weekend goes to Saïd Benrahma. Finally, my goal of the weekend, there are so many ones to choose. Nenard's goal, Wells' first, Ben Ron was second, not his first. And Sam Klukas' is also good as well. I think I'm going to give it to Ryan Nenard's goal, just from the angle and the technique as well was absolutely astounding. Now it's that time of video where I predict the Championship, Premier League and the League One player final predictions. We'll start off with the Championship. West Brom, Fulham, I don't know. Both teams look really good. Fulham on a really strong run of form. I'm thinking 1-1 draw probably. Reading and Middlesbrough. Okay. Middlesbrough have actually looked better away from home since Neil Warnock's come in, so I'm probably going to say a 1-0 away victory to Middlesbrough. You just don't know what you're going to get with Reading at this point. Wigan versus Hull, big game. One for two big games this week. And you know what? I'm going to predict Wigan to get a result. I'm thinking 2-0 Wigan. I think they can definitely do a job on them. Cardiff and Derby, that's the second big game. Wow. Whoever wins will be 6th place in the end of this weekend. This is going to be really tough. I think Cardiff at home may have the advantage. I'm going to say 2-1 Cardiff. And now Luton versus Queen's Park Rangers, a big game, especially for Luton. I think Luton can beat Queen's Park Rangers following their poor run of form. I'm going to say 2-1 Luton. Millwall and Blackburn. Millwall really struggled at home without their fans, and I think it just goes to show how important their fans are. I'm going to say a 2-0 away victory to Blackburn. Sheffield Wednesday and Huddersfield, Yorkshire Derby. I think 1-1 for that one. Brentford and Preston. I think Brentford will be comfortable. I think it's going to be a 2-0 victory. I think Preston will fight, but I think it'll be 2-0 Brentford. Bristol City and Stoke. I think Bristol City with their form, I think they're going to blow teams away. I think it's going to be 3-1 Bristol City. Stoke have been poor away from home. Birmingham and Charlton. I'm not too excited about this one. I think it's going to be a stalemate. I think it's going to be 0-0 for me. Nottingham Forest and Swansea. This is tight. I think this will be a 1-1 draw. And Leeds and Barnsley, another Yorkshire derby. Barnsley could easily get a 1-0 away victory and get a win, but I'm going to say Leeds get a 3-0 victory. I think they've got the momentum on their side. They're now super confident. I think Leeds will blow Barnsley away. Now we go to the Premier League, starting from tonight's game. Man United and Southampton. This is tight. Southampton have got a good away record, but I'm going to say 3-2 Man United. Chelsea Norwich. Well, we've seen all the jokes with every time Chelsea playing. Now they've got their new sponsor, 3 goals happen to one team, but I think Chelsea will be okay. I think it's going to be 3-1, but there's a poor performance against Sheffield United. Take no mistake about that. Burnley and Wolves. Burnley just seem to get a result, so I'm going to predict them to get a result against Wolves. 2-1 Burnley, I guarantee it. Man City, Bournemouth, oh dear. Bournemouth are in danger. I'm going to say 5-0. Newcastle and Spurs. This is interesting. Spurs have just won the North London derby, so maybe they've got a lot of confidence, but I think Newcastle could do something. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw there. Arsenal and Liverpool. Poor Arsenal. They were so close. They definitely deserved to win that derby, but they didn't. I'm going to say a 2-1 away victory to Liverpool. Everton and Aston Villa. Really tight. Both teams not in great form. Everton looked really poor against Wolves. I'm going to say 1-1. Liverpool and Sheffield United. Tight. I'm going to say 1-1 as well. Crystal Palace, Man United. I think Man United will get a 3-1 victory. Southampton and Brighton. I'm not too sure. 0-0 for me. And finally, League One playoff final. Oxford and Wycombe. I don't know. I really don't. I don't think there will be many goals. I think there will be 1 goal. I'm thinking Wycombe. They'll get a 1-0 away victory. I guarantee it. Wycombe will be the new team in the Championship next season. The first time in the second tier, 127 years. Absolutely unbelievable for them. But that wraps it up. That wraps it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like what you see, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. If you haven't done, please subscribe. It really helps. And if you can, please share the channel. It really does make my day. But thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, take care.